Hi, my name is Soliday, and today I'll be talking about chapter 22 of the book, which is called Advertiser Pressure, the Case of the School Lunches. Now, the very beginning of this chapter talks about media outlets and advertisers, and how media outlets mainly get their money from advertisers, but advertisers can pull out of a media outlet whenever they can because they're the ones giving the money. So it's kind of like a balanced scale. So, the story of this chapter starts off with a lady named Susan Bennett, who is an anchor for a morning small market TV channel, and when she's not an anchor, being an anchor of that small market TV channel, she is a reporter called On Your Side, and she just reports responses and people who have complaints and stuff like that. And continue on to the story, she decided to investigate an On Your Side story of a complaint from a father who had a complaint about the private school and the lunches that his daughter was having. He says that the lunches there at the private school isn't very healthy, and he blames that for the reasoning of why his daughter isn't very healthy and isn't feeling great. So Susan Bennett, she takes this case. She does, after a while, she interviews the father. She interviews a health specialist and seeing if it is unhealthy, if that's the reason why she's unhealthy. And then she tried to interview the school system. They didn't reply to her. They didn't really interview or nothing like that. They just sent her like a written note or something like that. But other than that, she didn't really get nothing from the school. And after that time has gone by, she sent in her story to the news outlet that she works for. And one of the managers there came up to her and said, "Hey, sorry, we're going to have to pull your story and put it on hold for right now." And the reason for this was because one of the main advertisers on the news channel backed out and said that if they do the story, that they would take their advertisement out and just stop advertising on their TV channel, on their show. And one of the people that was going to take their advertisement out happens to be one of the lead people for a car dealership, and the car dealerships make up most of, if we see commercials, they make up most of the advertisements, and on media outlets. And the president of this car dealership also puts in a lot of money to the private school, and his children and his grandchildren all are going to the private school. And the reason why he said that he didn't want the story was because he didn't want that bad confliction that people would see from the private school. He felt like it would have made the private school look bad, and he would have said that this would have not been good. And since he puts in large sums of money and people go there, he didn't want that negativity and a possible crisis or conflict between the school, lunches, and other people. So he said that if they continue with the story, that he will pull out, and that will be a lot of money gone, and one of the biggest advertisers and big things in the local area, since there's small market, and small markets usually have to fight for advertisers because they are small and they have to get people that can pay, and they have to. It's just there's a lot of things to it. So after Bennett heard that her store was being on hold, she kept on wondering when it was going to happen, and then eventually they never put it on at all. So the on hold was they just decided not to continue with it. After a while, on this aftermath of figuring this out, Bennett understood why, because she understood that they're a small market and they can't lose one of their biggest advertisers. That financial gain or the financial loss, the financial gain outweighs obviously the financial loss by a lot. She understands, and that she is still on the news channel and she still anchors, and she rarely does On Your Side stories if it has to happen to do with car dealerships or car deals, and she only does stories if she pitches it first to people like her managers and everything like that, and she makes sure that the story is going to be okay before she even looks or thinks about doing it without harming any advertisers or any big higher up people. So when it comes to this chapter, I agree that Bennett really can't be mad in this scenario because the only thing that she can't be mad about is how the decision was made. Because nobody told her about, why her store was put on, why her store was put on hold, or when it was going to be put on hold for how long. There was no managers or no marketing people or nobody hired that was above her that told her anything. So she was kind of out of the loop on that. So I believe that's the only part where she could have been mad at. I feel like they could have communicated better with her and said why it was, and that they'll probably just not do the story and come up front with it and be honest. But other than that, not doing the story makes a lot of sense because you are small marketing, and I believe you have to think about a business first and its financial gains before you put out a story on there that really isn't that controversial, but it isn't also really going to do a whole lot to for numbers and views. So I believe you just use yeah, I agree with the managers and the head people of the TV um, news channel is just to not do the story because you can't afford to lose one of your biggest advertisers, and they're a car dealership, so they're giving you mass amounts of money for you to display them, and if they pull out, that's a majority of that money gone, and it's going to be really hard for the size they are to find people to equal out that money that they were giving them, and just to keep finding more advertisers to join them. Um, I believe that Bennett should have been, like I said, communicated better. And at least I do know that she has gained experience now, as in what stories to do and what stories not to do, and to run them first from people before she just starts doing them and then kind of turns it in. I believe that she should, do stories that are obviously going to get viewers and eyes, but things that aren't going to affect advertisers. And if they are, to see how big the advertisers are. So if they do pull out, you won't be losing a lot of money, and they could be, replaceable with someone that you eventually find. And I believe that this is one of the biggest things of small market TVs is just advertisement, and that's why obviously the title is called advertiser pressure, and because it is pressure. It's it's very hard to get the advertisers to come and want spots if you ruin it for them, or if you do stories that negate them and kind of put them in a negative viewership. So overall, this chapter was pretty informing. It tells you a lot about how stressful it really is to run like a small market, especially TV station, um, and it tells you a lot about how much car dealerships and how big vehicle places are affect advertisement spaces and media outlets. And that's all I got. Peace.